Step 1 is Dr. Joe Dispenza, sharing the power of aligning with your future self and releasing the limiting beliefs of your past.
If we default and become the victim of our life, and we say that some person or some circumstance or some condition is causing me to feel this way and to think this way, the moment we become angry or frustrated or guilty or unworthy or afraid or anxious, we can't believe in that future any longer. Those emotions are associated with past memories. And those emotions cause us to behave as if we were in our past, make choices that are equal to our past, and believe in our past. And more people believe in their past than they believe in their future. And it's so much easier to forget your vision of the future than to remember it. And so if that's the truth, then if you understood that this emotion that you're feeling is really a creative emotion, living in fear and living in anger and living in hostility and hatred and judgment and resentment, that has nothing to do with your future. It has everything to do with the past. And so the problem is that we get addicted to those emotions that keep us connected to the past, and there's a story that goes with that past. And so many people believe in that story, and why not believe in a different story? And it usually takes crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis or loss for people to finally make up their mind to change. But that default that takes place so seamlessly when we feel the emotions of our past causes us to think the same way, to act the same way, and to feel the same way. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. That's it. So the present personality who's sitting here today called you has created the present personal reality called your life. That's the truth. So if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you would have to change your personality. And the first step in that is becoming conscious of your unconscious thoughts, those thoughts that say, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, it's my ex's fault, it's whatever,
By taking full responsibility and becoming aware of the negative self-talk within us, we reclaim the power to change. We can now choose who we want to be and align with that version of ourselves. This leads us perfectly into the second insight from Brian Tracy, where he explains how negative imaginal activity directly impacts our lives. Remember, take notes and take action.
Now, we talked earlier about one of the major obstacles or major pairs of obstacles are negative habit patterns, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. Those rob us of an enormous amount of peace of mind. We also talked about feelings of guilt, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of worthlessness, feelings of undeservingness, and so on. They also rob us of peace of mind. And I want to talk in this session about the last, if you like, key to this discussion on negative emotions, what we call negative imagination. Now, the word negative imagination comes from an extensive body of literature that was written at the beginning of the century, but they found that negative imagination is something that we create in ourselves that causes us an enormous amount of stress and distress, if you like. Negative imagination creates fear. And one of the best definitions of fear that I've seen lately is what is called fantasized experiences appearing real. Fantasized experiences appearing real. In other words, these are experiences which we create in our minds, in our imaginations, and we dwell upon them, and the more we dwell upon them, the more real they become to us. It's like I have 3 little children, and if I let them watch a scary movie, even if they insist upon it, they begin to feel that there are scary creatures under their beds and in their cupboards and so on. Is these fantasized experiences become real, and at one time, with little Michael, we couldn't get him to sleep in his bedroom at all because he was convinced that there were monsters in there. What do we call negative imagination? Well, another word for it is worry. Worry is a sustained form of fear caused by indecision. Worry is a sustained form of fear caused by indecision. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we make decisions, we do away with worry. A study was done some years ago where many thousands of people were surveyed and asked what were they worrying about at the current time. And they accumulated it all up and they found this is what people worry about. 40% of the worries that people had were things that never happened. When they went back later, they found that the things they were worried about would never happen. They were going to be late, or they'd lose a job, or they wouldn't work out on a date or a relationship. The next figure, 30%, were things that were in the past, that had already happened and nothing could be done about. There were 12% of worries were worries about health. In most cases, needless worries. The thought that they had a pain or an illness or an ailment or something else that didn't turn out to be true. 10% of the things people worried about were petty worries. They were worried about whether or not they had enough change in the parking meter, whether or not someone would phone them. Really irrelevant worries. Only 8% of the worries were about anything substantial at all, and of those 8%, half, or 4%, were totally outside the control of the person. They were worried about whether Red China would invade northern Vietnam and things like that. I think things that the person could have nothing to do about anyway. So basically, the research shows that as much as 96% of everything that we worry about or more is irrelevant. It never happened. It's not worth worrying about at all.
As Brian Tracy explains, many of the things that paralyze us from taking action are purely imaginal, yet they hold us back unconsciously. This is crucial to understand, which brings us to the third insight from Dr. Hew Len, and how we can begin thinking more positively, clearing old memories and taking inspired action toward our higher self by using Ho'oponopono.
So the next one is inspiration. So now you are inspired, and this inspiration is perfect information for you, for your existence. So Ho'oponopono is about erasing the memories that create the problem and allows you to be inspired. So now what happens is, as long as you're yourself, to thine own self be true, Shakespeare said. And who are you? You are nothing. The Ho'oponopono says you are infinite nothing. You're pure as a driven snow. So now the process is, I love you. I love you is a process to rectify an error. So now we take you from being yourself, and then we take you to inspiration. And then from inspiration, we take you to a memory, and it's a memory that blocks the inspiration. So the Ho'oponopono process of repentance, forgiveness, and transmutation. And you just simply say, I love you. So you get to make amends for that. You get to take 100% responsibility for that. So I love you is a repentance, forgiveness, and transmutation. And all you have to do is say it. You don't have to do anything else but say it. Now the other process is a process called thank you, and it can be done in different languages. It can be mahalo, it can be a merci, it could be anything. And as long as you say it in any language, it rectifies memories in you. So the Ho'oponopono is I thank you is the cleaning process. That when you say when you say thank you, divinity then responds. And how does divinity respond? It takes that memory in you that's creating what you experience as a problem, it transmutes it to pure energy. And then it takes that pure energy and releases it into itself. And then you're left with nothing. You're back to yourself, pure energy. That's the Ho'oponopono process. Thank you very much.
By using the Ho'oponopono mantra, thank you, I love you, we begin to clear old memories and align with a state of inner fulfillment. This dissolves limitations and naturally attracts inspiration. When we embody a positive attitude, we become magnetic. Now, in step 4, Rohn breaks down the law of attraction. And trust me, the final insight at the end ties it all together in a way you won't want to miss.
And here's a philosophical phrase everybody should take home. Here it is. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. Success is not something you pursue. It's what you attract by becoming attractive. By becoming attractive to the marketplace. What would do that? Multiple skills? Multiple languages? So, now what else would help you to be attractive to the marketplace besides more than one skill and more than one languages? I've divided it into five simple, basic fundamentals of ideas to ponder and think about that will increase your value to the marketplace. Could perhaps, like it did for me, multiply your income by 2, and then multiply it by 3, and then multiply your income by 4, and then by 5. And once you get there, it's not that difficult to multiply it by 10, because all you have to do is make sure you become more valuable and more valuable and more valuable. You don't have to work on the economy, because here's the first note. Each person's income is determined primarily by their philosophy, not by the economy. Once I understood that, then I said, well, I don't have to go to work on the economy. And the answer was no. You only have to go to work on yourself to make yourself more valuable.
Are you starting to see the picture? As we improve our inner self-image and cultivate a more positive mindset, we naturally become more valuable and more magnetic, effortlessly attracting our desires. Now let's solidify this idea with step 5, where Bob Proctor explains how to make a paradigm shift. Let's go.
We should be taught this in school, but we're not. How is the paradigm formed? Through the repetition of information. How's the paradigm changed? Repetition of information. Now let's suppose you're having a difficult time with money. You find that you got more going out than coming in. You've got to change your concept about money. How do you do that? Through the repetition of an idea. That's where affirmations comes in. I'll give you one I've been using for years. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. You don't just say that once or twice. You've got to repeat that maybe 1,000 times a day, every day for maybe 90 days. And you'll start to change your whole concept about money. Wealthy people all have multiple sources of income. Now I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I drove around with a battery-operated record player and a long-playing record. And I played it over and over again every day for probably a couple of years. This was so totally illogical. It was behavior. Everybody thought I was losing it. And I'm reading the same book every day, Think and Grow Rich. As a matter of fact, I'm still reading the same book. And it was the repetition of Earl Nightingale's information and the book that changed the paradigm. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I did it.
As Bob Proctor explains, by repeating a positive idea in our mind, with faith, patience, and persistence, we begin to reprogram ourselves for success. This repetition helps dissolve old, limiting patterns and replaces them with empowering beliefs. Now let's go deeper in step 6, as Gregg Braden reveals the power of our feelings and how to truly pray to create real, lasting results. And make sure to stick around for step 7. It brings everything together.
In the asking for, we are affirming that it does not exist now. And we invite you to think about that. When we ask the universe for something, we are implying that whatever we're asking for, or asking about, or asking to appear, or asking to happen, is not present in the moment. And in that way, we are actually affirming in the field the very thing that we were hoping to change. I hope that makes sense. The quantum field that we talked about in the last episode, if you recall, it is the container for all things. It is the bridge between us and the world, between what happens in here and what happens out there. And it is the mirror in our world for what we claim to be true in our hearts. So if you think about that, it makes perfect sense. If you're asking for rain, as I thought my friend David was going to do, if he asks that, then the field interprets that as him asking for no rain, because the rain's not there. So I looked at him and I said, David, if you didn't pray for rain right now, what did you just do? And he said, when I closed my eyes, he said, I felt the feeling as if the rain has already happened. I felt the feeling of what it feels like, he said, to stand in my Pueblo village with my naked feet in the mud. And the mud is there because there's been so much rain. He said, I smelled the smells of what it smells like when the rain rolls off of the earthen walls of our Pueblo homes. He said, I felt the feeling of what it feels like when I walk through the fields of corn that are this high against my naked chest, and they're this high because there's been so much rain. He said, I felt the feeling of what it feels like when my prayer is already answered. And then I gave thanks for what has already happened. He said, in those few seconds, I felt the feelings and I gave thanks for the rain that has already occurred. This is a very, very powerful story to me, and it illustrates a quantum principle, because there is a huge difference between working toward an outcome and beginning as if the outcome is already present. I invite you to think about that.
Wow, that step is truly a game changer. Maybe it's a concept you've never heard before, or perhaps you're familiar with it through teachers like Joseph Murphy or Neville Goddard. Either way, this is the method of true prayer, and the reason so many prayers go unanswered. Now here we are. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready for real change in your life. Let's move into step 7, where Bashar dives even deeper into the power of feeling.
But what you may not also understand the importance of is that you also, here it is, are you paying attention? The secret to the secret to the secret. Ears open wide. This is going to sound very simple, but it's very important. When you are acting on your passion, you must also be passionate about being passionate, which many of you are not. When you search for your passion, and then you find something, or you recognize the idea of looking around at any given moment for what excites you the most at that moment, and many of you make an attempt, many of you make an application, many of you do an act, there will still be, according to many of your belief systems, those moments when you go back into, when you choose to go back into many of your negative beliefs, many of your negative feelings, many of your negative thoughts, the things you don't prefer. And this is where it is most crucial to remember that you must also be passionate about being passionate in order to really allow your passion to work. And what this simply means is you don't ever give up. You, at any given moment that you feel yourself waning, look around and use your imagination and create for yourself in that moment an action and a behavior that will take you back into your passion. You must, in that sense, exhibit passion in order to create passion. This is how you bootstrap yourself up the vibrational ladder. To put it in another way, you have heard us say, you have heard them say, when you have a vision, when you have a dream, when you have a picture, when you have a visualization, act it out as best as you can. Do all the things as best as you can to allow yourself to create the frequency of the reality you prefer, even if it isn't literally, physically manifesting yet. This is the willingness to be passionate about being passionate, instead of choosing to feel the idea of the inertia tugging at you from the beliefs you don't prefer. The willingness to act differently regardless of the recognition that you have those beliefs. For example, when you see someone who is truly driven, truly passionate about something, about some career, about some reality, about some idea, you literally see that they are hungry for this manifestation. They are driven. They are obsessed. with it. The idea is to become obsessed about being obsessed. To do the things themselves for their own sake of creating passion that will then allow you the opportunity to take that and create the vibrational state necessary to attract what you prefer.
Are you feeling inspired? Bashar clearly reveals the transformative power of following our excitement, using positive emotion as a compass to move beyond doubt and insecurity and bring our desired reality to life. I hope these 7 insights have sparked a shift within you. If you're ready to go deeper, explore my holographic mind principle, an audio program with over 24 hours of transformative content designed to create lasting shifts in your consciousness. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching and wishing you all the best on your journey.